Hello and welcome back to Tavern. This is Gate. Where do we start? If you haven't already done so, please consider hitting that subscribe button as it helps the channel grow and gets our views and messages out to other people who might be looking for ways to improve their game or maybe even have other things to consider than just kicking in the door and looting the room. If you haven't already done so, please consider joining our Discord group where you can pose questions the Gatekeepers, myself, and the panel who's about to embark on the journey of where do we start our game. Without further ado, into it, shall we? Hello, my name is Jaide, and this is my Tavern. And tonight on Gatekeeper, we're going to be Master of Ceremony by one and only Shadow of Shadow and Son. Oh, I'm already having bad audio issues. Well, Elle, let me know how my audio is bad, and I will try to fix it. So, Shadow, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to introduce Conall and Mar. Take the show away while I try to fix my audio.
Well, from my perspective, it just sounds like you're cutting out for half a second every 2 or 3 seconds.
Like every third word, like Elle said.
Well, that is more of an internet issue than an actual audio issue, unfortunately.
And now
I don't know if there's anything I can do about that.
And now it sounds fine.
It's my internet. I bought fiber for a reason, and now it's not as great as it used to be.
Speaking of fiber, I got an email from Google Fiber. Congratulations, we finally got to your address in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm like, that's only 6 years too late.
Hello, Free Merchant Core. How you doing? L out in the chat. So, Shadow, this is a topic you wanted to talk about. So take us away. Lead us on our journey.
Well, guys, as you all know, it's the beginning of a brand new year, and I like to look at things, with a positive set of glasses, rose tinted, if you will. And I was thinking, what better way to start off the new year and potentially a new campaign off on the right foot. Let's try to smash some of those tropes and come up with some new ones of our own when we start out a brand new campaign. I'm very much action oriented, not just combat, but I like the running and the dodging and the jumping and explosions. A good Michael Bay movie intro kind of thing. I'm thinking, let's get the action going. Let's not sit around at the traditional tavern, or as Conall brought up, the message board looking for a quest, acting like we've known each other all our lives, and actually would need that. And let's do something different. Let's make a new campaign for the new year. Let's start off with something bold, exciting, and completely different from all the tired tropes we're so used to, and also some ways that we can start this new year also on the right foot, but in other avenues of the hobby. And we'll get to each half of the subject, as it were. First, we're going to talk about starting a new campaign, and then we'll talk about some other things we can do to reinvigorate this year, make it a better year for all of our players, ourselves, and maybe inspire each other to do something different, step out of our traditional wheelhouse, and make sure that we don't suffer that DM burnout. We were just talking a little bit about that earlier. I hear a lot about that, and I have some theories on why that happens, mostly because most of us, this hobby is part of our lifestyle. But going into uncharted waters is probably probably a thing we should think about with this new year. We're still in January, so let's get on with the first question I've got for you guys. I haven't heard much from you, Mar. How you doing tonight?
Have a headache. Other than that, I'm okay-ish.
And Conall looks like death warmed over, so I will
It's
have
in the title. Conall needs a cigar.
Mhm.
I can't help you. I don't smoke cigars. You know me. I'm just a cigarette guy. But we'll by the end of the evening we'll get you in a better mood. Then you can go back to bed.
Oh.
So the first question I've got for you guys: we've all started a campaign with you all meet in a tavern. What are some other locations you've started a campaign with, and what made them memorable? Jaide, it's your show. I'm going to start with you, buddy.
So I started campaigns in a lot of different places for a lot of different reasons. Um, and even some of the modules I've started them in completely off the wall places. Like was it Wrath of the Righteous starts them off by them falling into a cavern below the starting city, while a war between demons and mortal races wages above them. I've started campaigns at the customs check-in at a city, a rather large walled city, and I've opened the scene where the players are in line waiting, and then a disturbance happens. At the gate. What are their reactions? What are they doing? Why is are they going to investigate the disturbance, or are they try to rush into the city? Um, you know, things like that. My favorite start to a campaign, I think, was actually at a wedding. Um, and I'm going to be using this one again, or something very similar to it. The party is up from this small little town. Everybody knows each other, and it's kind of like Cheers, but as a town, everybody knows your name. And it starts off at the scene of a wedding, something joyous, something awesome and happy, and then the night leads fire and hell and awfulness. Don't worry about the state of my mind. I know where I'm going. But things go awry very quickly and early in the evening's festival. And it stirs the party to motion, or at least stirs people of various types to either run away, either try to help people who are trapped or harmed, or to figure out what's going on and then stop it, or can't stop it. Help those who can get away, get away. Um, it really separates out your heroes from your not very quickly to establish a crisis event as an opening scene. Because once you know what kind of characters you have, you actually hook towards that kind of player type, that character type. If you got a very heroic paladin-like character, they're going to seek to do the most good wherever they can. If you have the rogue who couldn't be bothered to put someone out with a boot full of piss, well, now you know. It's very quick. It establishes the type of character they are right off the bat. Um, so I think that's one of my favorite and more memorable ones. Again, I think I'm going to be reusing that, but in a different direction the next.
Nice. Conall, how about you?
Well, I think I got a couple favorite ones. Couple I was the DM, and couple I wasn't. Going to what Jaide said about Wrath of the Righteous, I started that campaign with a building falling on me, a tower. So that was unique. Definitely a unique way to start a campaign. The other one, it came out of a module, and I thought it was kind of interesting. It was Out of the Abyss for 5th edition, and you start the campaign with everybody being imprisoned by drow. And I'm like, okay, this kind of sucks for them, but I'll run it, whatever. And the party got back to me. He's like, is it okay if we play an all Dwarven party? I'm like, yeah, no one wants to play human, elf, halfling. No, we all want to be dwarfs. And next thing I know, I get the Grey Escape on my hands with these dwarfs in the Underdark dealing with drow. It was amazing. You could not. They put me on my toes so freaking fast. And I think I thought it was really cool. And the third one last year, where the party got home for the holidays, the one I ran that you were in, and everybody was taking vacation. No one's ideally no one saw it coming. Then the other shoe falls down, and everybody has to, like Jade's wedding story. Everybody has to jump up and see what's going on. See who is who in the camp party. Those are my examples.
Okay. You'll get a chance to give a couple more in just a moment. Mar, how about you?
Well, the most interesting one I've done was we got started out on our Star Trek Adventures game by having all of our characters in the same transport shuttle flying from a Federation starbase to the starship we were going to be stationed on. And that's how we started out the campaign.
I also like the one you put here, the WW2 paratrooper drop. That's actually right along the lines with something I was just reading, an old top secret module. For me, I've used a lot of things like the parties are the member of a caravan going from point A to point B, usually either as, passengers or as part of the actual, guardsmen that are guarding the caravan. That way I can, at any moment swoop down on them with bandits or raiders or something like that, or even, a giant lizard or something like that to give them, I really want to get them into either combat or rolling some other die rolls, whether it be dodges, saving throws, agility checks or dex checks or something like that, which will feed into my next question. It sounds like it's the same question, but
I did have one more thing. It's like in the Hyperborea game that I did for a year or so, we had regular new characters as characters got killed off because our party ended up being kind of like wandering mercenaries, and some of them died. So we would like periodically just like have a new character show up, and one of my characters actually got rescued from a bandit camp where she'd been taken prisoner by the bandits previously, and we used that as her method of being introduced to the party.
interesting. So why do you guys suppose you all meet in a tavern trope exists and continues to be so prevalent? I'm gonna go in reverse order. This way, give Jade some time to fix what's going on with him. Start with you, Mar. Why do you think? Why do you think it's such a common and continuous trope? Why do you think people use
Well,
it so often?
for certain fictional settings, taverns were a sort of meeting place where
Mhm.
people would have meetings for literally any reason that wasn't specific to an individual. So, you have three guys who are planning a hunting trip, might meet at the tavern, eat a meal, and discuss what they're going to do in their hunting trip, while eating a steak or something.
Mhm.
And it, it's just it's just so easy as an option, even if it's not necessarily something that is universally applicable.
Okay, how about you, Connell?
It's historic. Back in the time, medieval era, the tavern wasn't a place that just served beer. Tavern was a place the whole family used to go to for a meal or celebrate something. It wasn't just this place, the modern day version of a bar. It's historic. Therefore, it would be uncommon to find groups of people in these places. Look at Lord of the Rings when Frodo ran into I can't think of what his name was at that point in time, but the hobbits went there
Strider.
uh, because it was an inn. It was somewhere they can get some sleep, somewhere they get some food. The
I mean,
masses went to places like this because a lot of homes back in medieval time, that did not have what we take for advantage, a working kitchen. Having a working kitchen is still a modern concept. There was no such thing in medieval era, So if we're going to go back to medieval fantasy, where would most people go, especially if they're single? Where would they go for their meal? Where would they go to see what's going on in town? They would go to the tavern, the inn. And
Also, that's where the town would have their help wanted board if you're looking for temporary employment.
yeah, either outside or inside of it. It's just, it's historic. It's something that we know from stories, from The Hobbit to pick up, any kind of fantasy. There's always going to be some inn, some counting pony type place in most literature. And so we go with what we know.
Okay, how about you, Jade?
So hold on. First off, is my audio better? Can you actually understand what I'm saying while I'm continuously talking?
Yes.
That's awesome. So I've fixed that issue for now. So as for me, why is the tavern trope so overdone? And we've kind of already said a lot of it. It's a common meeting ground. It's where everybody goes to meet. It's the place where everybody knows your name. It's such a common thing because it was like the one inn in town. It is the one common place in town. Now, not every thorpe, not every hamlet is going to have a tavern. Not every podunk town is going to have that bar that everybody meets at. Some people might meet at, I don't know, City Hall. They might meet at one of the parks or whatever district is available for them to meet at. Might be a gravel parking lot out behind some place, whatever that place might be to you and your folk. It doesn't have to be a tavern, but it's typically the common meeting ground. Is the understanding of the trope. It's where everybody just goes to meet. And to answer some of the things going on in chat now that I'm able to pay attention to chat more so than my software. We've got insert name here. I'm personally not a fan of all starting the game in combat. I agree. I don't like to start the game in combat either if I can avoid it. Here, do a dungeon, yeah. So I'm gonna make my way through chat. So, Shadow, if you want to, go ahead and continue on.
Personally, I've used it. I'll definitely do it with the saloon in a Wild West game. There really is no other place to have the party meet up unless we've already established certain things in session 0. I'm getting ready to run a new campaign, and there will be no tavern. They will not see a tavern or an inn for months on end, so that when they finally do get to visit one, it will kind of make it like something they've been looking forward to, something where they can, relax, get a couple of drinks, do some other things, maybe play some billiards or something like that. But this feeds into my desire to get the ball rolling, so to speak. I want to, establish the relationships, if any, either during session 0, so we don't have to go through the awkward, introductions. I hate that. We all know who you're running. We watched you roll up the character, either last week or, a couple of minutes ago. I don't need to hear you, wind up your new voice for your new character, that sort of thing. Some people like it, but I want to get into the action as soon as possible. For the most part, I get bored pretty easy in long-winded role-playing games. I'm like, I came here to kill stuff, to shoot stuff, to bash in doors, to jump across lava pits and to dodge the natives and their blowguns and all the great openings of great action stories. I want more action than so much of this. Now, with my third question is, what are some exciting locations you've used to begin a campaign? And I want to emphasize that word again, exciting. Have you ever done something where they're starting on a train or on a, in the middle of being chased by something, or dodging things, or something suddenly caught on fire and they're putting out the town, or the town is besieged by orcs, or something more exciting. Conall?
Wrath of the not Wrath of the Righteous. Yeah, Wrath of the Righteous. As I said earlier, I had a building fall on me. That's how quite literally, how I started a campaign. Oh crap! There's a dragon. It's dying. It fell into a tower. I was in tower. Now I am Siegfried because I am covered in dragon's blood, and I go crazy, mad. The gate is open and the horse is gone. Mad. That was a fun. That was Jaide's campaign up there, and that was a fun way to start a game.
I like that. I want to hear stories like that started, with something crazy, something blowing up, catching on fire. Maybe literally. I'd love to start a campaign where someone is immediately getting punched in the face. It's
Ted Knights have started that way. Anyways,
see what I'm saying? We've had those moments where the story begins there, and then later on you'll go, oh yeah, but before that we did this, we did that. How many times have you watched a TV show and it starts with this weird action sequence, and then it'll like rewind, 24 hours, and then start the story 24 hours ago? We can do that. We can do that later. I want you guys at the table to have, I want you to be rolling dice within the first 10 minutes of being there, not waiting, twiddling your thumbs, waiting for everybody to do their intros and, hitting on the barmaid, or, telling me what they're ordering. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how much the food costs. Just, is there going to be a bar fight, or do I have to start one myself? Right?
I don't exactly agree with that. I know quite a few gamers that are very detail oriented when it comes to RPGing. So I get where you're going for. I've seen both sides of this particular table.
And you got to understand, I've been doing this for,
Much
45
longer than
years.
I have.
Right. I've been doing this longer than some people have been alive in the hobby, in our community. So I've done it all. I've seen of 10,000 different characters. Show me, don't tell me.
Right. And I completely get that. I think the situation that me and you both have in common is we both ran games out of shops. And God only knows what kind of characters you're going to get when you're doing a public game. But the last example was, I'm going to use Rise of the Rune Lord. You start, it's right off the bat. You're in a village. They're having a ceremony to open up a new church, and a band of goblin attacks the city and set it aflame. I thought that was an interesting way to start a campaign.
How about you, Mar?
Remember how I said that we had that one where we all got together in a shuttlecraft at the Federation Starbase in Star Trek Adventures, and we're flying towards the ship that we were supposed to be stationed on for the rest of the campaign? Yeah, that shuttlecraft ended up in pieces on a Federation research colony planet, and then we spent our first 2 or 3 games trying to figure out why our shuttlecraft is now in pieces on this planet, and why we aren't on board the ship yet.
I'm going to agree and disagree with L's comment here. Where the game starts is likely is like a character background. It only happens once and then is forgotten. Looking at what is coming into the future. Yes, I do agree that happens often. I would say that there are some ways that we game masters can start a campaign that are memorable, that will last, because it sets the pace, the tone, and the overall energy of the game. So, for example, I had a game where it was a sci-fi game, and the characters were waking up from cryosleep. Like they literally woke up from cryosleep to red alert sirens, to The flashing red lights and the whirring of the whirling of sirens and readouts and displays of warnings and messages and all that. And they didn't have time to wake up. They didn't have time to think, oh hey, how did we get here? No, it was more of a, okay, something's wrong. What is wrong? Can we fix it? It was a immediate response requirement where, okay, we know the ship is basically on fire, but what can we do about it? What are our readings telling us? um so, and what it does is it jumpstarts the group into action and gets them right into it. Gets them thinking critically about what's going on and where do we go from here. And you can set an entire mission or even campaign off, in with that kind of energy, and maintain that energy for a good long time. As they try to figure out and suss out what went wrong and why it went wrong. And maybe not all of the problems can be fixed in just that one session, or just the first opening scene. Sometimes those things take time to fix, and they'll always have that warning message pop up, when they get ready to take off, like, oh yeah, the attitude adjuster is still not working correctly. We're All of our tests are going to be hard until we get it fixed. So even combat maneuvers or getting off planets is just going to be harder. Whatever it might mean for your group. And by imposing that, it gets them thinking, okay, how do I overcome this with what I have to work with? And they start working together to solve that issue, whatever the case might be. Let's see here. It was right starting at a point where
the campaign you
Go ahead.
ran when we were on Moss Avenue, where it was the Tale of Two Worlds.
Oh yeah.
What was it? What campaign am I thinking? Strahd, where you think when you honestly think the campaign is going one direction, and the mist comes in and just grabs you. When you thought you're going right, it takes you, turns you completely upside down. Especially in the first two sessions, they can throw players off because they're not expecting to get ripped out of the world that they're in. And now they have to deal with a whole different environment, different customs, different everything. And it could definitely do the campaigns, which could have been the stale game. It could bring it back to life, even if it's just out of the first few sessions. I mean, doing random stuff like that is never a bad idea, as long as you have a direction, not so much a railroad, but a direction that you want your campaign to go. I think it can be,
or at least a direction that you can kind of point your party in. And if they decide not to go that direction, well, okay, change the plans, change scenes in the direction they actually want to go, and let them find out what's out there.
right.
For me, in the campaign that you brought up, it was it was called Two Worlds, One Home is what I named it. The campaign starts with a series of serial murders. There's a serial killer that's come to town, and the whole town has to band together, walk in pairs of two. Never let anybody be alone. Scenario, because there's this killer on the loose, and it's already claimed like 5 victims from this little town of like 40 people. You might not think that's a lot, but no, that's a damn many for out of a town of 40 people. 5 of them are already dead, and the serial killer may or may not be done. They have no idea where he is. Um, so that as an opener, like that gets people moving. You don't know who to trust. You don't even know if you can trust the person sitting next to you at the table. You don't know if they're the serial killer or not. And I did that intentionally. Like, sure, it sows seeds of distrust, but once the serial killer is revealed, it's like, oh, okay, so you're shady because you're shady, not because you're the serial killer. I got it now. Because and that was actually a scenario where a person was acting extra shady or extra suspicious in the party. Like they were acting the roguish part, and the party didn't want to trust them. Nobody wanted to walk alone with them because they thought that they might actually be the serial killer. So, that group ended up walking in a group of 3 instead of 2. When they finally found the serial killer, like, oh, we don't trust you because you're just a shady dick. Like, well, yeah. Okay. Now we can get over that.
By the
And
way,
it
Joe,
helped
that wasn't
build the
me.
bonds of trust. Huh?
That wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you. It was somebody else.
I saw those judging eyes. That was not me that time.
So did
Oh,
everybody get a
But
chance at
that
that
is the way.
last bite at that last question?
I got the Star Trek games that Mark runs. I kind of like somebody like to do a Star Trek game, but throw the xenomorphs in there just because. I mean, I think it'd be amazing, especially if a xenomorph got captured by the Borg. Oh my God!
The
How
last
good!
adventure that we were on, we had, some kind of, space, faring bugs that had
Cockroaches?
infested a, some sort of like an or semi-organic world ship thingy. Oh, explaining it in, one sentence.
No,
Let's just
I
say it was
get you.
a complicated
As far as your question, you're asking question number 3, right? What are
Mhm.
some of the
Yeah.
more exciting locations you've used at the beginning of a campaign? Is that your question?
Yeah.
That you're on? Okay.
Yep.
Um, there are times where I've done a cold opener in the middle of a forest, and well, okay, it's the middle of a forest. The party, kind of comes in. It was looking around, and there's this perfectly burned circle in the forest. Like stumps are burned all the way to ash into the ground. Everything has been leveled within a 30-foot radius of them, and everything has been blackened to ash except them. They're just fine. And they arrive here and they have no idea what it is they're doing. They have no idea what they're supposed to be doing. They just arrived and in this blackened circle. They have no idea how they got there. That is an opening I've used once. And the party's like, okay, so who are we? I don't know. Who are you? I don't know who your characters are. I don't know. You haven't introduced yourself to me. You haven't introduced yourself to each other yet. So who are you? What are you doing here? Um, and I think there is also a starred question I've got up here. Starred series of questions from insert name. I'm going to highlight that. How many of you started a campaign with characters independently? Has
No,
anyone here done this?
that's actually how I'm running my next campaign. Is I'm going to do a session 0 for each player, and that session 0 might last a couple of hours because I don't mind them being more than first level when they meet up with the party. Also, because of the particular environment of the world, there's not it's not an easy road to get from, say, the land of the dwarves to the land where everybody's going to meet. So if you're running a dwarf character, I'm going to start you leaving home and get you to where everybody's going to basically meet up anyways. Just to give them a little backstory, a little bit of experience. I have some new people who I've never played with, one player who's never played a role-playing game in their life, and I want to give everybody a little one-on-one session with how I do things. What do I expect? And when we're doing certain roles, I want them to know their numbers. I don't want them to spend 5 minutes looking up all their pluses. Take a postie, write it. This is what you need for combat. This is what you need for that sort of thing, and give them a little bit of opportunity to have a little action on their own to see what they can handle, so that they should they be separated from the party, which I like to do a lot, then they know I better, act a certain way. I'm not this big old tough, 10th level thief that can skulk anywhere and hide and run and, get out of every situation. I want to get them to start using their brains on their own and then worry about being a group and then go from there.
So what about the rest of you? Have you ever done this where the party starts completely split apart from one another?
Uh, yes, because I mentioned the whole thing with like the Hyperborea campaign where
Mhm.
we have all of these replacement players coming in, and none of the replacement players is actually going going to just show up at the tavern in sort of thing. We always had them like somehow encountered by the party out in the wilderness somewhere. Like I mentioned that one of my characters met the party because she got rescued from a bandit camp where she'd been held prisoner. One of them, the party was exploring this dungeon built into a hilltop, and my character, introduction was that the party went through a side door and climbed out on top of the hilltop so to look around and try and figure out why there was a side door here. And they just happened to bump into one of my characters standing there. And I don't remember what the other two were anymore.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was stuff like that. It's like every time a new character was added, we would have some method of
So,
them meeting the party.
so I have actually done a opener this way as well. The opening to a campaign session. Now, granted, I typically run 6, 8 hour long sessions.
And they're great.
So the opener was about an hour per person to begin with, and it was a group of 6 people. I mean, it was a split up hour, so it was really like 20 minutes, then 20 minutes, then 20 minutes, move on. But everybody started completely separate from one another, except for those who said, "Yes, I want to start with that person." And the way it started was, person A was playing a wizard, rogue assassin type character. Um, and they were on mission, in this really, really large city, one of the largest cities in the game world. So that's where they started. They were on mission to gather information about a corrupt politician. Um, and then the next person that I had started with was actually at customs trying to enter the city. They had to declare, what they were bringing in the city because um, it was announced before the campaign started that the starting area, the starting city, the nation is very militaristic and is always at war with one of its neighbors. Unfortunately, its neighbors are mostly a country of nomads, so you can't really be at war with them. More like you're defending your territory from them. But I digress there. But so the next, so that person was starting at customs, trying to get into the city. Another person was starting at, I think it was the Machinist Guild, because this was also at like a steampunked era game, or theme. So each person kind of had their own start, but eventually, and the way I wove it all together was I wove their starts toward a common point or toward a common goal where they would all eventually end up meeting, and in either engaging with one another with swords and fists or with words, their choice. But it would all revolve around this one corrupt politician, about who's getting resources into the city and why, and why they couldn't go through proper channels and so on and so forth. So that's how the campaign started, and then from there it built up steam towards more political intrigue within that country, and some of the corrupt things that were going on. Eventually, the wizard assassin did get his mark, and got paid for the job, but everybody else is like, oh well, and them's the breaks for that guy. What's our next mission, boss? As they turn to the person who set the whole thing up and put it into motion.
I think I know this campaign.
You were in the second running of that campaign, yes.
Okay, because you said a wizard assassin, and I'm like, that sounds like Whisper.
That's Whisper was in the second attempt, yes. The first attempt did not go well. Let's put it that way. I made it about 3 months into that campaign, and I ended up moving from the city that I was living in to a different city to take a job that I absolutely hated after 10 years of being at it. So,
To answer the question, as people who watch this, most of my best stories is gaming is when that guy is involved, He's been my DM now for years. He needs to get back to it because I'm missing his games. Just time
I'm missing
scheduling,
my games.
scheduling the time. But that being said, and I said this earlier, me and him talked at least about 2 or 3 days worth of talking about how I wanted to make Mad. So there was a preset to how Mad was going to join this already going campaign. What is this character going to be like? Such things like yeses, no, a lot of no's, a few yeses. It all worked out in the end. And the other one was Scott's campaign. When I got back into our gaming group, it's like, well, we kind of got a character you might want to run. It's an archer, war mage, whatever, and you'll be playing this for the next 40 levels. What? And so I had to, figure out how to make that one work. And both examples, there was at least not a week, but at least 3 or 4 days worth of conversations. Okay, this is how it's going to work. Yeses and nos and okays. So, but as a whole, as a DM, especially being an in-store DM, no, there is no talking to the customer when they come in. They know what they want to play, and they're going to tell me how they're going to play it. I just take their money and smile. Hey, I like having electricity.
So sorry for taking over the show there.
No, it's okay, because I realized question 4 was a little repetitive, so I'm going to completely insert a completely impromptu question for number 4. With your next campaign, or maybe the one down the road, can you come up with an on the fly, more exciting introduction opening sequence for your next first level campaign without using a tavern? Jaide, you get to go first.
Okay, so an exciting intro to a campaign without using a tavern for the next one. Well, like I said, I kind of already said what I wanted to start with for the next one, and that is going to be some kind of celebration, some kind of citywide, or Thorpe-wide, or whatever size town it is, celebration where
so maybe fireworks or the opening scene.
Well, my next game, I really, really want to run a Bronze Era campaign, so fireworks really aren't a thing, but there is magic in the world. So, you might have the Gandalf style fireworks where it's like words of power being whispered into something and it takes off and rockets out into the night sky and, explodes. That's kind of where I think the campaign is going to open, is during this festival. And people are having a great time. It's going to be the like festival of Summer Fairy or something. And something is going to go horribly wrong. Like, I already have who my villain is and what their motivations are and what they're looking for. The party is going to, be very, very rudely and unceremoniously interrupted during their celebrations, and they have some choices to make. They can either stand and fight, and if they die, make a new character. They can run away. They can go out to the edges of where the confrontation is happening to watch it all unfold. Whatever they choose to do. Like, if they fight and they succeed, awesome, good for them. If they fight and lose, well, that's a new character. Whatever, move on. Whatever they choose to do is going to impact what happens next. So my starter is going to definitely be a festival of some kind that is going to be very unceremoniously interrupted in the worst way possible.
Okay, when you said celebration, the first thing that came to mind is popping of a bottle of champagne, but I guess that's out of the question as well.
So they could have had Bronze Era. They could have mead.
Mead, not really so much bubbly, but yeah.
Yeah.
I want an explosion. So, Mar, how about you? I just want something to blow up. I don't care what it is.
Well, I mean, one of the most interesting openers I've ever seen for a sci-fi movie. I've been trying to remember the name of the movie for 20 minutes, but
don't say Pitch Black.
That was an interesting opening, though.
Yes,
yeah,
but not that movie. This movie was a colony ship had been sent from Earth to some ocean planet, and the ship for some reason crashed onto the planet's surface and is now submerged in the ocean on that planet. And the characters that do stuff during the like 90% of the movie are people that were in cryo sleep and are like waking up because like the ship knows that it's supposed to be letting people out of cryo sleep while it's uh at its destination. Well, these people are like, why is the ship doing all of these weird things that it's not supposed to
That
be
sounds
doing?
kind of like a cross between Subnautica and what was that other movie where it sounds like another movie. I can't remember it though.
Well, the twist with this one though is that the ship is actually mostly working properly.
It's
It's
mostly
just
what?
the ship is actually mostly working properly. A lot of the issues that the ship is having are due to the fact that not all of the crew actually stayed in cryosleep while it was in transit, and you now have these weird cannibal tribes that somehow originated from the ship's crew that are now living on board the ship, and the main cast have to figure out how to deal with that problem before they can, make the ship do what it was supposed to do in the first place.
Wow. You just made my next entrance when I was thinking about running a whole lot nicer. And mine involves Nazis. Holy shit. Oh my
Hmm.
god.
What are you talking about?
Uh, I think the film you're talking about there is Pandorum.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're
Yeah.
right.
Pandorum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
I
was
need
one
to
of those
watch
things
more
where
sci-fi
I was
movies.
just thinking to myself, if someone tells me this, I will recognize the name immediately, but I just don't remember what it was.
I just typed what you described into Google and found it.
Okay, then.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, I
And
was like, I watched the movie 2 or 3 times because I actually liked it the first time. It's a very, very tense and exciting movie. Has several things in it that made me cringe because I would not do those in real life ever. I would find a different solution because I know that I wouldn't be physically capable of doing what the main character in the movie did. One of
That's good to
which
know.
was crawling headfirst down a cable duct to get from one part of the ship to another. No, 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 no.
No, the
Especially,
first thing on my list would be not eating other people. That's
Well,
well,
you
you
know,
see, that's not what the main cast did. That's what the weird gone feral people did.
well, I mean, we've kind of discussed what we would do for either like early Bronze Age or medieval opener. Like what would you do in a sci-fi opener?
Oh,
Like
oh,
what
right.
is your sci-fi opener?
I forgot. That was a lead up to what my actual one is. That one thing that I've actually wanted to do is do a Thundar the Barbarian themed campaign, and the thing that I think would be one of the best possible openers for that is having several people that have been captured by a wizard to be slaves escape from one of his transports while being transported from one city to another, and have that be the way the party gets together.
Okay.
Doesn't even need to be
What about
like
you,
all
Kyle?
of the people being transported, just a few of them.
what do you got for us, Conall?
this was I kind of been hemming and hawing about writing a module for even just a one shot for this one, but I always thought it was a very cool concept. Was It's an older movie. I think it's called The Night of the Meteor or something like that. The Comet,
That is a comment.
where everybody who went outside to go look at the thing turned into dust, and whoever stayed inside was still alive. So the population of the world just, you know, went down to very little, and those who were like somewhat caught in between became like a not zombie but mutant type character. I thought that would be an interesting sci-fi out of the norm type campaign.
If you read the backstory of the Hyperborea setting, it has an event known as the Green Death, which was a green comet that irradiated Hyperborea with some sort of radiation that mostly killed people. It also somehow turned certain people into zombies, and no one in
Was
Hyperborea
that also a
actually know what
Dr.
it is.
Seuss book?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Now I know you. Huh?
Yeah,
But
he,
no, I
he
think
might be making a joke about green eggs and ham.
No, there's another one though. I think it was Dr. Seuss. They wanted different weather, so they came up with something that wasn't all of the other weather, and it ended up being green slime coming out of the sky. But
Ah, yes, yes. One of his see, one thing that people forget is that most of the Dr. Seuss books got relegated to obscurity. There's like a handful that people remember as being amazing works of fiction because of the fact that they're less weird than the rest of them.
okay. So that was interesting. The only thing I can remember from Dr. Seuss is not Dr. Seuss. I speak Lorax, and for some fucking reason they speak Vietnamese was a meme I saw about a week ago that just kind of stuck. But that's about it. So I normally don't do sci-fi things. I mean, I run the one out of the one book that Shadow up there thinks is dog crap because it's just way too dark for him. I run that like Stargate Universe.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Death in Space. The one.
Oh God, yeah, that's.
And I basically just watch like Stargate Universe for ideas for like.
Yeah, we can talk about that one at some other time. It was just there was no point in playing the game. You'd be better off doing anything else because the world is literally the universe is so miserable. There's no longer even art. I don't want to be there.
I got you.
But go ahead.
Unique entrances to campaigns. We're all DMs here. I mean, there's a lot of DMs in the chat. There's us. I think we've all kind of hit the normal tropes, running head first at least 100 times over by now. And the idea of doing original, I'm sorry if it is kind of weird, not weird, but just rare. Well, isn't that the entrance to a movie? Yeah, but did you guys meet up in a tavern? No. Well, that's better, than meeting up at the fucking tavern, right?
Depends on how it's done. Depends on who's involved. I've done both recently, and I just interested in seeing something different instead of the same old, same old. It's to be expected when you've literally played as many games as I have, especially now finally as a player. See, for the most part of my career, I was the dungeon master or the game master or whatever, and it's only been this last year and a half that I've actually got to be a player with a group of, for the most part, fellow dungeon masters. Almost every game I'm in a game with other dungeon masters, but I see more often than not the same old tired, exact same beginning, and I'm like, you guys have done this before, break out your A game. You are dungeon mastering for dungeon masters. Let's make this one,
I want to know how the princess, one of the most guarded person in the kingdom, keeps getting kidnapped.
Magic.
I just, oh no, I'm at the wrong castle. What? It's just, I'm tired of maybe like you, maybe this is the thing. I'm getting grumpy. I don't like somebody got kidnapped. Somebody who should have had no business being kidnapped gets kidnapped. I'm not Mel Gibson. This is not Ransom. We're not playing this game anymore. Somebody's cow gets stolen. Well, there's a town guard for that. That shouldn't be me. That should be, So,
well, I mean, for the cow getting stolen, you could throw in something like we found part of the cow, and goblin arrows, and we want you to figure out where the goblins are that stole the cow.
Yeah.
I just I
If
think
I never see another goblin, I'll be just fine with that.
I don't
I know.
mind goblins so much. I just want it to be unique. I want it to be, and it doesn't even have to be unique. It just can't be rinse, lather, repeat. I want something a little bit new. Yes, I might have seen this interest in the movie, but you know what? At least you're trying. You're trying something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the crux of this conversation. Trying something different.
It's part of it. Well, it's a big part of it. Let's go with number 5, I guess. It is a new year, and with that, I plan on running a couple of new campaigns. How about you guys? Any new games on the horizon, and can you tell me about them? Jaide?
Yeah, so new games on the horizon. I am still writing my setting for Bronze Age. It is going to be running through Index Card RPG, but I am changing up the magic system enough to be absolutely unique to what I want to do. So my next game, like I said, is going to be Bronze Age. It's going to explore the earliest parts of the game world I've run for the last 20 plus years. Mostly because those stories have never been told, and I've always been curious as to what the Bronze Age looks like. Like, what is the first age of the mystics look like? What did people do then? I've got an idea of what my villain's doing or what my main antagonist is doing. I've got an idea of like what their motivations are and why they're doing it, as well as the ramifications if they succeed at what they're doing. Like I know what will happen if they win, or if they succeed at what they're doing. Now the question is what can the party do to stop them? What can the party do to throw an absolute monkey wrench into the gearworks of what's moving and in motion, and what happens when they do? That is what I want to explore. That is kind of like I want to know like what happens during that age so that it helps inform me for future games within the same game world. Like fast forward 24,000 years into the future after that game takes place or after that story ends, and I know like what happens during that era. Because I've run those games. The games about the Neo Guardians and the the far flung future into like from steampunk era all the way through science fiction and spacefaring era. Like I've played those games out. I've run those games, so I know where the world is heading. I just don't know where it began, and that's truly what I want to get to. Is I want to know what was the first story. What were the first people like, and what happened then. But I want it to be a game, and I want it to, I want players who are excited about exploring a world that I don't even have mapped. Like there is no map for this world. There is no nothing set in stone, if you will, or even to papyrus. It's all mostly up here, and I've got numbers and ideas and things figured out. Like I know who the tribes of people are. I know what the types of character classes are, and I know how the magic works, but again, I have no idea what stories unfold during that era. Like I have no idea like if a party is willing to take on something such as the Nemean lion, or if a party takes on the Hydra, like what is the result? In a Bronze Age, is the Hydra more deadly or less deadly than in an age of sword and sorcery or guns?
So does the Hydra have enough heads to have one mouth for each party member to fit into?
I mean, it could. I don't know. Again, it's one of those scenarios. I don't know what the Bronze Age of my world looks like, and I've been running
Because
this world for 25 years. I
you
have no idea
remember
what it looks like.
how one of those old Ray Harryhausen movies had a multi-headed monster? Well, the way they were able to beat the multi-headed monster is that they had a dozen men with spears distracted, most of whom got eaten, while the hero does his clever plan because the hero is not actually dodging the monster. He has his crew getting eaten to keep the monster busy.
Well, the only stories of my game world that survive the Bronze Age, the only one really that survives the Bronze Age, is the cataclysm that caused the end of the Bronze Age, or the end of civilization as it was known of that time. But that's only recorded basically in like cave paintings in the aftermath, after the world changed. Because like land masses completely changed, water levels completely changed, oceans moved entirely from what happened in the final cataclysm. So, the world is vastly different in the future than it is during, the Bronze Age of the game. So, you know, it's not necessarily a replay of historical events because nobody knows what happened to it. It's prehistory. None of it's actually written down. So it's not going to be a replay of anything. Like there's one or two events that I think are going to survive what the players want to do. But they're not set in stone, and they may not survive. In fact, it may alter my entire perception of what the game world is and how it unfolds thereafter in the next story I want to play in that game world. No, L. It's not a Greta Thunberg situation. It's quite literally something is likely to happen, and it's I say it's likely to happen because more than likely the party is going to cause the event. Like I have this idea of if I was a player going through the trying to stop this villain, this NPC that's out there doing all these things, what is the natural progression of things, just from mechanics, physics and mechanics standpoints, and the cataclysm may or may not happen based on parties' natural conclusions or decisions.
Nothing to
So,
help continental drift like magic.
Mhm.
magic and other things, yes.
I mean, when you want to have the power of plot get enacted, saying a wizard did it does actually work in some settings, even if having the wizard do it means that the wizard is casting level 15 magic spells in a world where players can only get up to level 10.
Sure. And that's the other thing is, the world can be completely reshaped by magic over the course of 25, 20, 24, 25,000 years. Like people aren't going to know that, oh yeah, that coastline actually belongs somewhere over there.
No, I
No,
mean,
it's gonna be like, no, that coastline's always been there. It's never moved from there. Even though, somebody from 24,000 years in the past would be like, no, that coastline was never there before. That's a new mountain range because the coastline was actually 150 some odd miles that direction.
or you could pull something like in Final Fantasy VI, where there's that point in the middle of the game where there's a magical cataclysm that just like rips the world apart.
Oh yeah, uh, God, it's been forever since I played through that one.
You guys are talking about this, and I can't help but to think something that happened in the real world was before, you know how they age wine?
Hmm.
Mhm.
There is, after we dropped the first and second big bomb, a new element was introduced to the world. So if a wine is older than the first dropping of the bomb, it has a predate of this time. After that, all wine has this thing in it. So going back to what Jay was saying about his world, the coastline might be right here this time, but one major, I don't care,
Cataclysm.
I don't care. It's like the saying, there's no I in team, but there's five eyes, and I don't care how big the room is. I cast fireball. Uh, Scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, magic is this wondrous thing that can reshape the very fabric of reality, and if used correctly, either by game master or player, it can alter a world entirely. So, the world map that doesn't exist for the Bronze Age is is and would be completely different than what it exists as in the modern age. So, I really want to get into that game, and I really want to explore and let my players just have free reign and go wherever they want to go, talk to whoever they want to talk to, and do whatever in that game world that they want to see accomplished. And I want to see it, and I want to see it firsthand, and I want to document it for my own mental processes to be able to run a future game and have references from those events.
I'd like to volunteer my services for this campaign. I'll just throw that out there.
Okay.
Before that, though, Conall, you got to tell me, what game are you planning on running this year?
Other than just the random paper modules that the game throws at me, shop throws at me, I'm actually kind of excited about this one. I don't know why. I'm going to be in a new game, a Dragon's Bane. I'm looking forward to figuring out how that system works. I'm not running it; a friend of mine's running it. But a system that I'm running, game I'm running, is I'm taking the 5th edition Curse of Strahd. I'm taking it, and I'm ripping out 80% of it, just pulling a lot of the bullshit out, and revamping it to be more of a Brimstoker meets, I don't know, Dog Soldier the movie meets just more gothic horror and less bullshit. And we're going to use terms like gypsy. They're not going to be special terms that don't fit anybody. I'm going to use words that are, would be traditionally the ROM that would be used for it. And I'm having a lot of fun remodularizing that book because there's just a little.
You should hit up Mark, because he sent me a nice list of original 2nd edition PDFs of Ravenloft, which will give you a ton of inspiration, at the very least, if not actual ideas you can swipe, because I'm certain that most of your players didn't play 2nd edition Ravenloft.
Oh, I'm thinking maybe one person did, and that was Finn, and you met him last year for the big man's birthday when we did the All Things Token on Gatekeepers. He's been playing for the 40. He's been playing forever. He's been giving me some notes on what 2nd edition used to be like the first time Strahd hit the scene, and it's a lot of fun. I have notes, but I'm basically running Curse of Strahd, but I'm not running Curse of Strahd. I'm doing, not to sound like Frank Sinatra, I'm doing it my way.
There's plenty to work with in the dark realms of Ravenloft to easily mix and match and create all kinds of twists on the old, at the very least, the old Universal movie monsters, the werewolf, the mummy,
from
the Black Lagoon, Dracula, of course.
They're going to get to the small little cottage where this nice family is outside harvesting cabbages and whatever, and they're going to be said, hey, why don't you stay here tonight in the barn? Next thing they know, there's going to be an attack of werewolf for the party to find out, wait, the werewolf is actually the family that has, I got plans.
How about you, Mar? Anything on the horizon for you?
At the moment, only a vague objective of do more games. Just don't have any definitive plans at the moment.
Well, maybe by the end of the episode, you'll get inspired.
Well, I mean, I have inspiration. It's just one of those things. This guy got to find time to actually do it, and
you've got to find
more
time.
You have to find time to actually do it, and more importantly, it's not my personal time, but everyone else's time too.
I want him to run a Star Trek meets Alien type theme. I think it'd be amazing. I still want to know what the board do when they run into xenomorphs.
Probably the same thing that they did when they ran into the species 847
Run like little bitches.
Well, they, shall we say, carefully considered their options, and it's something that happens in Star Trek Online, but the board did eventually figure out how to assimilate species 847 too. It's just that it took them a long time to do it. like 20 years, I think.
Yeah, I was going to mention 8472 as well.
Because like species 8472 had a lot of abilities that are common to xenomorphs. Like here's one for
Yep.
you. If you're human,
It was
you can get killed by having tumors grow in your bones made from a species 8472 cells because when they claw swipe you, they leave little bits and pieces of themselves in you, and like grows like a cancer and starts to eat your body apart from the inside.
No
yeah,
more
I
tumors.
was really wondering if really Scott was going to sue Star Trek for Voyager's use of or making of basically a xenomorph creature.
Well, it's very xenomorph adjacent, like obvious
Hmm.
inspiration, but you can't say it's a
Oh yeah,
copy, just
it's
inspired.
not a copy, but very very close. Yeah. So anyway,
So for me, I'm going to be running uh, possibly an Amazing Adventures game or some other pulp game with the current title of Nazi Dinosaur Cults of Antarctica. And then I'm also working on my Venture Brothers inspired supernatural horror investigation game. Venture Brothers slash the TV show Supernatural. If you mixed them up and screwed some things around, that's mostly a tongue-in-cheek kind of game. I've got my High Seas Adventure AD&D game going to be starting Sunday with Session 0. And who knows, I might actually get a chance to run my Traveler game revolved around an ancient star, basically a buried treasure in space kind of thing, where they're trying to pick up the clues to eventually lead to, the big treasure planet kind of thing. But obviously, it's not going to be that simple, and it's not going to be exactly what they're expecting when they finally get there. And who knows what else might come along. I'm probably only going to be able to run 3 of them out of the 4 or 5 that I'm playing with, just because time constraints. Finding time for a regular long-term campaign, it seems to be one of the biggest issues with us, adults these days. Being able to put aside one day for such an event, let alone 2 or 3, but more than likely I'll probably sneak them in during the afternoon while the little guy's at school.
I was speaking of time. I'm lucky enough to have a full time game on Monday. I'll make fun of Monday really quick. And I'm DMing this past week, which was a shit show, and I apologize to them. And they were casting spells from books. I'm like, all right, I know we're doing this over the internet, but unless you have the physical book in front of you, you cannot cast that spell or play that class. And I was joking. I was really joking because there's no possible way for me to know what books they have when I'm via this. But being still slightly part of the old school concept of it, you can only play material from books that you physically own, that are in front of you, that you can show the DM. Hey, chapter 2, verse 5, subsection A says "fuck off," and it's right here. See, but
you're
finding
welcome.
time. I completely agree with you, Shadow. Finding time to spend 4 hours, 6 hours. That doesn't involve a weekend that lawn needs to be mowed. I need to work on the car. I need to work on the roof. I need to go grocery shopping. It doesn't fall into those days. It's rare. I mean, it's not rare. It's
It gets
sacrificing.
harder every day.
It's sacrificing one thing for the other. And why sacrifice good beginnings to campaigns when you're using tired old tropes? Stay out of a tavern unless you're 18. I mean 21
Or overseas.
or overseas.
So
See,
with
I
20,
brought it back. I brought it back to topic.
thank you. So with 2023 in our rearview mirrors, what are some of the biggest lessons in game mastering you guys learned from our fellow YouTuber gamer friends out there? Can you give us an example? Mar, I'm going to start with you.
Hmm. Prep is important. Very, very important. You just need to remember that what is far less important than prep is having a basic understanding of what is going to happen to the game when you start playing it. Because, well, for a simple example, that one shot that Heathen Dog did when they did their 24-hour stream,
Mhm.
where I and several other people played a Call of Cthulhu module that Heathen Dog made up. Well, as part of the module, he knew that it wasn't going to be a straight line like go from this point to this point. He knew that the players are going to, be players and cause chaos, and completely utterly fail at some of the things that he thought would be simple, easy tasks for us to perform. So he made it so that there was more than one way to get from point A to point B, because he knew that it wasn't going to be something he could count on for us to get from A to B the method that he expected. But he had to do a lot of prep as part of this in order to have an idea as to, you know, more than one way to go from point A to point B.
So you learned this from Heathen Dog?
Well, it's something that I've had people show me many times in the past, and this was simply a really, really good, uh, in-depth explanation of how he did the planning for it, because of the fact that most of the previous ones, people were just like, "Yeah, yeah, you just need to think about how to do things." But this one was more in-depth and very nuts and bolts of how he set things up, because part of it is going to come down to random chaos, and you can't actually anticipate everything. You have to leave in wiggle room for you to make crap up as it goes along, even though you planned a story.
How about you, Jade? What's the biggest lesson you learned this last year, and who'd you learn it
Ooh,
from?
man, biggest lesson?
Or the one you want to
Hmm.
talk about?
Man, biggest lesson or the one I want to talk about. Well, there's two creators that I follow on YouTube. I know they don't follow me, but that's fine. I'm pretty small fish by comparison. That's Kane's Kiln and Runehammer. Everyone here knows that I'm on the index card RPG bus. I'm very much a
Mhm.
subscriber to the concept of brevity is key. That I don't need super crunchy systems to be able to play a game. That all I need to have is a basic idea and understanding of how the game is supposed to go, what my players are capable of doing or not doing, and the dice determine whether they succeed or fail when failure is actually has a consequence to it. And I think that's the bigger thing is failure should only, dice should only be rolled when failure has consequences. If failure has no consequence and they can just, try again, why bother with the reroll?
This
Just
is
roll
actually,
a D.
I was just to say, it's like this is actually one of the first things that I had someone explain to me about being a DM, is that telling a player to do a skill check is only for when you have a contest of whether you want them to succeed or fail. You don't tell someone to roll a skill check if you've decided that it's time for plot to happen. Or if it's just like an
So,
easy, like, give me that, like, oh, you're talking to the guard, and you're not telling the guard anything that the guard has even the slightest reason to suspect is a lie. So obviously, he's just going to believe everything you say, and don't bother doing a skill check for that.
the concepts that I really focused in on as far as this year goes through Kane's Kiln and Runehammer both. Um, where the Game Master's Oath in Index Card RPG. Hey, Raven. And hey, welcome, Bo. I just saw that you popped in here. So I watched their interpretation and their thoughts and processes of the Game Master's Oath from Index Card RPG And it really got me thinking, what I have been doing up to this point, is it too much? Is it too little? So it made me reflect on my past as a game master and made me realize that there were things I did as a game master that were needlessly overcomplicated. So I've been going back and I've been revising my methods, my ideology of what it is and how I approach game mastering. And you're asking what the hell is the game master's oath? I can pull that up for you. But it's actually printed in Index Card RPG. As a matter of fact, I've got it right here on my phone. And let's see here. Pull that pen open. You're asking what the oath is, and this was put into Index Card RPG by Hank, the author of it. And it's in both core and master edition. I'll open up master edition. Okay. Here, the oath starts on page 77 of the master edition, and it is. My page numbers are off. I will let the torrent flow, which is when I come up with a concept, I'm throwing literally the first and anything that comes into my mind out onto paper just to get it onto paper, and then I can formulate ideas after that or expand them after that. I will remember everything. It's not just about recalling rules. It's also about recalling what players have done and what they did. And what consequences might come from that. I will build a world from their actions. Is the third point, and again, this looks at what the players are doing and the decisions they're making. And you build around you build the world around and based on what they do, and what happens next is a direct result of what they have done. I will be an architect. This is I will make environments that are alive, that are able to be interacted with, and that are able to be changed by the players. I will be poetic. And this is a kind of a story aspect of it, or a story idea. Is I will take what the players have done, and I will spin the threads of fate and story together and narrate what happens when they choose to do X, Y, and Z. I will be energetic. I will be the energy in the room. I will bring 120% of myself to the table at all times. I will meet my players 100% of the way. If they're not feeling up for a game, I will be the energy for them. I will inspire them into action and inspire them to do great things with their characters. I will lift them up and vanish. And this is, your characters can do these great heroic and epic things, and you as the game master are lifting them up off and giving them the ability to do these great things. But you don't take the stage light from them. You keep that focus light on the player and on the character that is doing those awesome things. You never step into the limelight as the game master. I will be the beacon of camaraderie. If everyone's like, if you TPK, a group, and based on their bad decisions or based on things that happened, don't let the party just sit there and dwell on it. Go out to the nearest tavern, go out to a restaurant, have an appetizer to share with everybody, and get some drinks, and have a good time with them. Be the person who reaches out to your players and goes, hey, are you excited about this weekend? And are you ready for this weekend? Things like that. And then I will be a terror to behold. And that is the last point of the Game Master's Oath. And that is, as the Game Master, I control all of the the evils and dark things in the world. And when the players decide, yeah, I want to kick in the door on Cthulhu, okay, you chose this path, and now this is the consequence. And you be that terror, be that monstrous thing that they decided to wake up on purpose, and don't hold back. Let the
What was
dice
done,
fall as they may.
and what was done can never be undone.
Yes. Let the dice fall as they may. The hands of fate giveth and they taketh away. Don't roll behind a game master screen. Don't, hide your game master rolls. Roll it out in the open. Let them see it for record's sake. Like, oh, yep, rolled in at 1. Oh, hey, rolled in at 20. I'm not gonna fudge it, not gonna hide it. What happens happens. I am not here to win. I am not here to beat the hell out of you. I am here to narrate what happens, and when the dice say you die, the dice say you die. When the dice say you succeed with great success and become an epic hero, that's exactly what the dice said.
And when the bad guy rolls a critical fail on a spell casting and accidentally hits himself with his own spell, like, well, if that's what the dice
Bad
say,
shit
that's what the
happens.
dice say.
Yeah, bad shit happens one way or the other way. It doesn't really matter who it's affecting. If a bad guy, fudges his or messes up his own spell and gets hit by it, well, that's just really bad luck. So that is what the Game Master Oath is from Index Card RPG.
How about you, Conall?
What have I learned this past year? Gaming wise,
And from who? And from who?
I've learned if I'm not physically up to running a game, I shouldn't. I learned that for myself. I had that experience a couple weeks ago. I've always been a big fan of patience. As I've gotten older, especially in gaming, I think I think that the DMs need to be patient with their players, and at the players need to be patient with their DM because things might not always go as planned. But that's more just experience than over anybody one has showed me. Things I've learned. It's not so much I learned anything new, particularly this past year when it comes to gaming. Is just I need to get back to some of the basic rules I have as a DM, and as a player. One, being patient. B, being courteous to your players and to the DM, and I guess tonight is no more taverns.
Got to
You
change
heard
my
it,
damn
guys. The prohibition is now hit
channel name.
fantasy. We're all fucked.
I mean, it's not that I hate taverns. It's just that you shouldn't do that every time.
It was a joke, Mark.
I know. That's it. Yeah.
But I think this has been a very interesting year gaming wise. I've been in Bruce's campaign now for a while. We've done table breaker games, and they're always interesting for their own rights. But as a whole, there hasn't been any lightning bolts. The light bulb has not really gone off. It's just going back to the fundamentals when it comes to being a DM: self responsibility, patience, a lot of things what Jaide said. Normally, I am more excitable, more. Right now, I'm just not feeling my best right now, so that's why I'm low energy. But other than that, this is something everybody should learn to do. Read more.
Well, before Bo goes, I hope he will stay around for this. I learned from him from one of his videos. It's my hobby, my way. I'm going to play the games that I want to play. I'm going to run the games that I want to play. And if there are detractors or naysayers out there, I got a couple of double-barreled middle fingers for them, and they know what to do with them. And
Look at my icon.
I'm going to enjoy my life, my friends, to the best of my ability, and true friends will always be there. Good gamers can't always make it, but I know in their hearts they'd rather be there than not. So all of you guys go out there and play the game you want to play, especially if you're a DM and you've wanted to run a game or you've wanted to be in a certain kind of game. That's why I'm running my High Seas Adventure game, because to this day, after 45 plus years of gaming, I have yet to be in a game where we spend most of the time on the open sea, being sailors, maybe being pirates, digging up buried treasure, doing all of the ocean tropes. If you go through the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual alone, you will find, especially in the original Monster Manual, you will find roughly 1/3 of the monsters there are deep sea or aquatic monsters that I know of scores of which people have never run into. I was talking to a good friend of mine today who did not know that there were underwater ghouls.
I'm nodding my head as if you all could.
And like 3 or 4 different mythologies too.
Right. But because he never ran into him in his 40 some odd years of playing, he never ran into him because no one has the guts to either run or to want to be involved in a high seas adventure game.
Didn't we talk about variation of this on Gatekeepers? Water. I think Max.
Oh, yeah.
Max was with us, but yeah, I agree, Shadow. I think a pirate game would be kind of refreshing.
Well, it's not even necessarily a pirate game. They are not pirates.
I mean, a high seas game.
High seas.
Well, everybody keeps saying pirate when I talk about mine. It's like, you guys aren't pirates. Get that shit out of your head. You guys are the heroes. Pirates are the bad guys. You want to run bad guy pirates?
Over a year ago, while watching YouTube videos about ships sinking in the Great Lakes, I had this idea pop into my head of doing a TTRPG game where it's like the wooden sailing era, but with a certain amount of magic, and you have the player's party is a very, very simple but superhuman task. Find X ship and raise it from the briny deep.
No, if it's in the Great Lakes, it doesn't matter.
Oh, they're called great for a reason.
so thank you, Bo, for that. I'm grateful. And if you guys haven't seen it, go check out Bo Paints Mini's channel. He's got a lot of great ideas and could probably use some cheering up right about now. So I'm going to get on with the last question. I think we have enough time to cover it. We might end a little bit early, but, let's see what happens. New games come out all the time. Is there a new game that just came out that you've been wanting to try, and can you tell us why?
How new is new?
A year with, let's say, came out in 2023, or even before that. There's a new game out there you've been dying to try. You can't wait to play it, but you haven't gotten to it.
It's a smart ass answer, but you're not.
I'm going to start with Mar. Is there a game out there that you just heard about or you've been dying to play and you're going to try and make it a priority this year?
Well, things that I have kind of like my pie in the sky dreams list was that TMNT thing that Palladium reprinted, but that's just one of those things. It's like it's out of my price range, so I'm not going to get it. And finding one secondhand, good luck with that. So I'm probably not going to get one of those. But I really, really like the whole like weird sci-fi stuff, and that's actually what attracted me to this is because they wrote that as weird sci-fi. We have like mutant people fighting for whatever reasons in a that's the only thing that I could think of off the top of my head that came up that where I thought like, ooh, I went to try playing that, and it was something that wasn't just that was actually kind of new. It's like most of the new games I just look at it, it's like, oh, one of those again. Me. Only thing.
How about you, Jade?
Oh man, there are 3 on my list for this next year. One I've already pre-ordered. It's supposed to arrive sometime late spring. It is the Final Fantasy XIV TTRPG rule set, mostly because I am a player of the MMO. I do really actually enjoy the Final Fantasy XIV online experience. I've enjoyed the story. I've enjoyed a lot of things that go on there. Another one that I'm hoping comes out this year, but it might actually be realistically next year, is the Stormlight Archive RPG, which the minis have been, up on Kickstarter and released now. I got them in October, so I'm going to be painting these up hopefully in the near future. So that is definitely an RPG I want to get into, is the Stormlight Archive. But the downside, so here's my downside to the Stormlight Archive. I was a playtester for it. I was the game master who ran the playtest for my local group. The buy-in for players is high. And what do I mean by that? The buy-in for players is you got to love and read the novels by Sanderson. To truly appreciate the RPG, it's kind of a must. I had one player who had not read anything Stormlight at all, and they were lost.
That is a huge ask, honestly.
Well, I was following the core concepts that were kind of laid out in the text of the books. The different disparities between certain castes of people, and what expectations there should be, at the table of, in the system. So the fact that one person had not read anything Stormlight Archive at all was a detriment, because a lot of the things were just lost on them. They just could not keep up, and they lost interest very quickly. So if you are a reader of the Stormlight Archive, there is an RPG coming. I will say that they handle the mechanics of the stuff in book world very well, as far as the actual play of it goes. But if you're going to have players, they probably need to be fans of the writings of the books. Otherwise, it's probably not going to work very, very well for that group. And you know what? If there was a Goblin Slayer RPG, I would probably get it. Yes, I would probably pick that up. But the one that my wife and I kickstarted, we still have not played it, is Avatar Legends.
This guy right here, time and place.
This is
just time. Let me know.
This is the Avatar Legends role-playing game. It is based on Powered by the Apocalypse game engine. It is something I want to play. I would like to get into, but again, there's a certain buy-in level for anyone who wants to really play it, because you kind of have to understand the world. And I'm starting to realize that some of these themed game books, especially like Avatar or Stormlight Archive or even Dresden, like, you have a certain buy-in level that all players have to agree to get into. Goblin Slayer, okay, so there is an RPG, and I will have to look that one up. Thank you, L. I will definitely look into that. But if I was to run a Goblin Slayer RPG, I don't think there's as high of a buy-in level as there is for either Avatar Legends, Stormlight Archive, or Final Fantasy XIV RPGs that I'm going to be wanting to get into later this year. And that's because it's more generic than any one of those other three I mentioned. It and the anime and the manga both are set up in such a way that the gods played with the souls of mortals with dice and luck. That's kind of written into Goblin Slayer, from the very beginning. So it's very much a classical D&D or classical role playing style game, or set up that way through the story. So I would probably run Goblin Slayer as an RPG. So yeah, I'll have to look for that.
Who wants to go next?
I got a couple. As I said earlier, I'm looking forward to Dragonbane. I'm looking. It's different.
Whoa. Rewind. Why Dragonbane? How is it different than any other of the 500 plus fantasy RPG clones of Dungeons and Dragons?
It. It's different in the sense that God, I can't think of it. I think straight right now. It's not a D&D clone per se. It's a roll down. It's a roll down game. So Jade would be, a rock star at it. There's a
Not
couple.
hearing how it's not a clone.
I'm more interested. I'm looking forward to playing it for two reasons. It's how it's described to me, and I'm not going to do a very good job trying to explain it to everybody else, other than go look into it for yourself. Is I'm excited by who's running it. The person who's running it is one of my favorite people to be a player as. So I'm excited about being in the game. And it is different enough than base Dungeons Dragons Pathfinder that makes it, has got my attention with between. Yeah, you got to look into it. I can't put it into words, and I'm sorry, but Dragonbane's on top of my list.
Okay.
Jade pointed out the Avatar series, Avatar RPG. I watched it when it first came out. I rewatched the first and second version of it with my daughter. I have a lot of great memories of it. And if it goes anywhere near, which it should, it's a D10 system, right? Mute.
I
Don't know. It doesn't matter.
I
It
don't
doesn't
know.
matter.
It's powered by the Apocalypse game engine, so I'd have to actually go review that. It's some kind of no, it's a D6 system, and it's it's something I have not explored much. Like I would really like to play just a straight powered by the Apocalypse game before I run that, so I have an idea of what I'm in for. But yeah, so it's definitely a D6 system.
I know the lore, the buy-in, as you put it. I'm fully invested in that. The comics, the books, the cartoons. I've seen it all. Dragonbane, the Avatar, and the other one that's got my interest. I've had the book for almost going on 2 years now, and it's new. It's still new to me. Conan the Barbarian by Modifius.
Modifius.
I have a
D20.
person who's going to run it, and I don't know much about the system other than it's not the normal crap that I'm low magic. Anything low magic makes me happy these days.
Oh, you're gonna hate my Bronze Age.
That's fine. It's you're the DM. Oh, and that's the other one. I'm excited about his game. His game. That guy right there. I'm excited about his game. But I played fantasy
I'll
for
make
years.
that easier for you.
This guy. I played fantasy for years.
Nice.
Right now, it's not an RPG game, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's called Flames of War. It's a tank game, and it is the community that plays this game is very interesting to talk to. So whenever I'm told, hey, go to Just for Fun at X time, we're doing a Flames of War game, I'm there for the community that plays it. So I'm always excited about that, and it's still a fairly new game for me. That probably doesn't fit with the whole, it needs to be RPG game, but Flames of War, for those who are history nuts, who likes miniatures and painting stuff, it's really fun to play.
Cool. How about you, Mar?
Wait, which question was this again?
What games are you looking forward
what new
to playing
games
this year?
Oh, one thing that I would really, really like to talk my family into doing is a Champions game, because I actually do have the core book for that. It's just that what's the best way to put this?
Talk your family into playing Paranoid.
They got kind of sort of scared at the character creation process and decided they didn't want to try doing character creation for it. Then again, this is the same group of people where I had to personally fix the character sheets of several of the people who are playing our Star Trek Adventures game because certain of my family members had i- issues with the idea of like, so what did your character do at Starfleet Academy that shaped how they wanted to be a Starfleet officer? I wish I was joking about that. I have several people in my game, in my family, who tend to take the kind of like board gamey approach to playing TTRPGs. It's like
Mhm.
where they don't really like play a character. It's more like have a piece on the board that they do things with, kind of approach to it. Mm. Oh well. So asking them to write a backstory for a character, boy,
Like pulling teeth, huh?
I
I don't
wouldn't
write
say that.
backstories.
No, no,
I
it's not like
refuse to.
pulling teeth. It's more like, getting a cat to, sit on the c instead of the floor or something. I don't know.
Hey, I am right there with your family. Backstories suck. I don't write them.
Well, see, that's like the hang up here was that Trek Adventures uses the life path system where it's honestly just a handful of minor background details, like,
Oh, yeah.
where were you
Options type
born? Why did you
scenario.
go to Starfleet Academy? Very simple stuff like that.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that's not too bad. No, I personally believe that writing backstory for me is a guarantee way to make my character die the first or two sessions. Because every time I've written a background story, my character dies within the first two sessions, or I get removed from the game because Rick's a dick.
I mean, let's face it, any good, properly written backstory is, um, story, fodder for the DM to incorporate in later adventures.
No,
Amen.
I know what that look is for. Uh, yeah. Well, I still need to go back to that road, recover a freaking gun. And that wasn't so much of
Not
a
gonna happen.
backstory. That was just a problematic childhood.
Uh-huh.
Insert name. You might want to look into an oldie, uh, but definitely a kind of a classic was the Steve Jackson game Tune. If you want to run something just completely zany and goofy, if you want it more anime inspired, I'm sure you could adapt it. But we had a lot of fun with that one
I
back in
mean,
the day. Just if you're in the mood to be silly for a couple of weekends in a row, or you need a break, maybe that's what you need. I don't know. Otherwise, I got nothing for you.
I would actually recommend Tristat
Yeah,
or Bessem for anime.
I've got the entire box set of all the Big Eyes Smallmouth. I've never played them once, and it came with
Oh,
like six different world book type settings. It's got just about everything, but I pull it out and people are like, because if you think about it, it doesn't have to be anime. The anime is
yeah.
just an aesthetic look and feel to it. You
Mhm.
can pull, I would love to be able to run that game, but like hide the covers so my friends and players didn't know what we were playing, just because they see it and just go, for obvious
Well,
reasons.
make a book cover for it. Make a book slip for it, and
You know what?
Yeah, but then
Back
at
in
pull
some
it
high
point
out,
they're
school,
gonna have to.
run it.
At some point they're gonna have to look in the book, and that's gonna throw them. They're gonna be like, "Hey, what is this shit?"
No, no, you hand them photocopied, sheets, or you get the PDF and you print out just text mode.
That's not a bad idea. For me, I've got a couple of games I've been dying to play. One is a new one that I just came on my radar. Well, it's been kind of on my radar because of Rob Oren's Tabletop World, where he ran Four Against Darkness, but this one's 5 Parsecs from Home. It's a sci-fi solo RPG thing that I'm curious and interested in it as a tool to run games, for myself, and then see if I can then translate them or aspects of them into a full-fledged regular sci-fi like Traveler or Star Frontiers role-playing game. Not necessarily hard sci-fi, but to get the plots going and things like that, because a lot of the harder sci-fi games tend to be really sterile and kind of boring. And I want some weirdness and some alien aspects to my sci-fi that um, yeah, I disagree. That would be the same thing with video games and solitaire, etc. If I use something as a tool to inspire me to write something better, I don't think anybody's going to care where the exact inspiration comes from, because I really don't want them to know. I want them to think it's all my genius, and then I came up with it on the spot. Pulled it out of my ass, whatever you want to call it. The other game, full disclosure, I am, highly biased when it comes to Arduin Bloody Arduin. Most of you have only heard Arduin, but Arduin Bloody Arduin will be coming out later this year from Emperor's Choice Games. It is the original Gonzo game. It is the origin of the critical hit and the fumble and of so many other game mechanics and ideas from back in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, that have almost been completely forgotten to the many decades since it came out. And I'm good friends with all the people working on it. And if you are into a game that's got everything from historical to fantasy to sci-fi to, it literally has everything in it, and it's not like a GURPS generic universal role-playing system. It's a world that if you travel far enough, you can find just about anything you're looking for within all of the usual tropes, all of the stereotypes, all of the crazy wildness that was the original's sort of 70s West Coast gaming community back in the day, where just about anything would go and anything was possible, as opposed to, oh, we don't do this and we don't do that. If you want low magic, there's a low magic place. If you want high magic, there's a high magic place. It's just a matter of walking or riding or sailing to one of those locations to find that kind of adventure. There's even a post-apocalyptic area that's an area that was, destroyed by some sort of nuclear, accident or war or something like that just devastated that particular continent. It's got it all, and I've been dying to play it for literally 40 years. I always used the Arduin books as my secret weapon to pull things and ideas out from that I knew nobody else knew about, but yet if you look hard and far and wide enough, you will find people who remember the great David A. Hargrave for all the things he gave us and then left this world way too early in life. And I'm hoping to be able to bring that and share that to everybody I know. So get ready. 2024 is going to be the year of Arduin. Last year was the year of, I'm not sure what. Different people say different things, but I think this is going to be the big one that's really going to make a mark on the hobby in general.
I was actually looking up before I say anything. I want there to be a Masters of the Universe RPG. There's a board game that got released a couple years ago, like maybe 2
Yeah,
years
I
ago.
work with that company as well.
But it's not an RPG; it's a board game. And the only role-playing game that there is out there came out in '84, and it hit the wall faster than Well, I'll be nice. So I want there to be from the early. I want somebody out there to talk to somebody who makes RPGs to make a new He-Man game based off the 2000 He-Man. The early 2000 He-Man animated would be a fun campaign to run. I'd be excited about that. Plus, I'd have to have Bruce because he is, Skeletor, right?
I'm sure he would be more than happy to join you on that endeavor. So that's what I've got. I'm hoping everybody this year will go out and try new things and invite new people to your game. Just be careful who you let onto your live streams, because the one lesson I learned this year was to vet people before you bring them onto your live streams. I'm sure everybody's heard the jokes, and I'm sure we'll hear them all year long. Okay, Jade's the only guy here who does not know. We'll talk about it after the show. But yes, be careful before you let people into your streams, because I made the mistake twice in a row, 2 weeks in a row, I had different people come on that I didn't know, but I thought were, well, actually, one I didn't let on because they proved themselves to be unworthy in the green room, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And then the second one we let into the actual show. Big mistake. So, any of
And
you YouTubers out there, yeah, just
He's
vet,
not
vet.
talking about me.
and then there's that lesson from Bear where, so someone was coming onto his streams trying to rile him up, and he actually paid attention to them, and just like, don't. When someone's trying to interrupt your stream and disrupt what you're doing, just either ban them or ignore them. Don't feed them.
Don't feed the trolls.
Yes, there are quite a few of them this year. I've already seen on friends of mine's channels, so be very careful. But it goes just for your groups as well. Vet your players. Make sure they're going to be a good fit. The last thing you want is to start the year off with some sort of strife at your home or in your workplace or in your life in general. Just be careful. And I think this is going to be a pretty darn good year, despite what certain people would tell you.
Well,
Oh,
I
oh,
hope.
I want to say something really quick before I am at 91 subs. If I break the magic number of 1,000 by the end of this new year, I will send the last person, if you get contact to me, a case of yogurt and D4s. If you know, you know.
I see. Well, I would personally like to get over 100 subs on YouTube. I know, low ball, but I'm not there yet. So it'd still be a milestone.
I I don't care about subs on YouTube. I don't care about numbers. Like if people sub to me, awesome, cool. They'll find me and you guys and this show. But yeah, I'm not playing the algorithm. I'm not going to play into YouTube's games of make the most flashy content and be the most derisive or be the most annoying person out there. No, I'm not going to play that game. That's not
Yeah,
what I'm
I
into.
think that
Um,
niche has been taken by several others.
Yeah,
That's
and I
even
I couldn't care
disappeared.
less. Like I am not here to become monetized. I do not care one bit. I like if I could make sure that there were no ads on my content, I would absolutely do that. But as I am a free user of the platform, I don't get an option. I don't have that choice. And I'm not going to make money off it, and I really don't care. I do this because people. It was expressed to me by others that I have been in the hobby long enough, and I've seen a lot of things in the hobby as a game master. That I have some ideas and some experiences to share with people that might inspire them, might give them ideas on their own to try out at their table to see if they work. I had a crisis of of faith within gaming because I had run through Pathfinder and D&D 3.5 and I'd hit the brick wall and I didn't know what to do because I was fed up with the game and I was starting to hate the hobby as a whole. So it caused me to switch gears and look at other games. And thank God I looked at other games because, man, there are some really great ones out there. I looked at like
Mhm.
13, 14 different games for the next game I want to run. And there's some really good choices out there if you want to play just about anything. There's if you're looking for a specific type of game, or a specific type of setting or theme, there's probably a game out there for you. So get out there, play other games. The 800-pound gorilla in the room isn't the only game manufacturer out there. Play more games, play other games, play better games.
Mhm. Uh, That's the funniest thing is that 5e as a game system is fine. It's just that WotC's idea of, shall we say, building a world for players to play in is just backwards. I don't understand why they're doing it that way, but they are.
I'll keep my comments to myself
Uh,
on this one. Anyways, we're at it's about that time. As Jade's going to say, thank you everybody who's joined us this evening. Thank you, Shao, for coming up with these interesting questions. Hopefully,
Pleasure.
2024 is actually a good gaming year, and we'll be doing this time next year, saying, "Holy crap! You got to hear about this game I played 16 hours of my life, or X amount of hours of my life too." And how great Jade's game is, because eventually that's going to happen, and it's going to be amazing.
Hopefully this year. Yeah, that is my goal, is to get my Bronze Age off the ground this year. So, well, without further ado, I want to thank you, the chat, as Connell said, for being here. Without the chat, we would be just four guys talking to the empty void that is YouTube. So thank you for coming in here tonight. Thank you for showing up. And if you have questions or thoughts about TTRPGs, or even a concept that you haven't fully fleshed out yourself, but would like other input on from other game masters, you can pose that as a question on this video or on our Discord. If you haven't already joined our Discord, that is where you can actually suggest the next topic for our show.
Well said. Alan.
And oh yes, ignore 4D. Okay. Don't know what 4D is, but yeah.
That's a thing that Shauner started recently, and I just one of those things is like, yes, I understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. Why do you think I have any reason to care about what you're saying?
Wow. Okay. I don't really watch a lot of YouTube.
That's
I
why
make content
you should
for
ignore
YouTube,
it.
but I don't watch a lot of it. So, anyway, you out there, if you haven't already done so, please consider hitting that subscribe button, as it helps this channel and the other channels grow. The other channels are linked in the video description below. And you guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next week on Gatekeepers.